S.T.A.L.K.E.R Shadow of Chernobyl is an open-world FPS developed by GSC Game World and published by THQ. Large number of players praise it for being an immersive and atmospheric experience, while the same amount of people hate it for being unpolished janky mess. And I can honestly understand both, as I often find myself stuck between the two. While I love the game and even consider it one of my favorites, I definitely have many things to say about it. So let's take a closer look so I can explain myself more. This will probably be a long one, so grab some popcorn and a beer and let's get started. The game takes place in a zone, a 60-kilometer wide area of excursion that was set up around Chernobyl following the 1986 disaster and extended by a fictional second disaster in 2006. And if all of the radiation wasn't enough, mutated animals and deadly anomalies make this place even more dangerous. However, the anomalies form artifacts, and they are in high demand for high prices. So people break in the zone despite the military lockdown just so they can profit of the artifacts. These people are referred to as stalkers, and this is where you come in.
What have you got?
A body. It came from the death truck. It's got the mark.
Well, you know the drill. Leave him on
This is a live one.
Bullshit! You are lying!
Let the zone take me if I am.
You play as a stalker who is found near dead, with no memory, and with PDA that only tells you to kill someone named S.T.A.L.K.E.R. You also have a mark on your hand, so people refer to you as Marked One. After being tended to by a man named Sidorovich, he will ask you for a few favors while he finds some information about S.T.A.L.K.E.R.
Favors upstairs. You do some jobs for me, and we're even. Besides, keeping you busy might be a good way to deal with your amnesia. And I'll see what I can find out about your problem.
And after a few missions that kinda serve as tutorials, you're off to search for S.T.A.L.K.E.R, try to regain your memory, and discover zone's secrets. I would say the story overall is fine, but I often found it uninteresting since it's barely focused on. It also doesn't help that there's not really any interesting characters, your player character included. But the story has 5 fake endings and 2 true endings, so there's definitely more to it than you would expect. And yeah, I mentioned your player character is uninteresting. Without spoiling anything, one of the twists has to do with your character, and it just feels empty because your character is 99% mute and has no personality. Anyway, enough about story, let's talk about the game. Huge praise has to be given to the presentation. For a game from 2007, the environments look fantastic with incredible weather effects and great dynamic lighting, all of which is used to great effect. I also love how the open environments of the zone contrast the various abandoned facilities you have to explore in main missions. The lighting in these areas is fantastic as well, along with great soundscape. Overall, I think the game looks great, and the only downside are weaker character models and some stiff animations. On the opposite, on the other hand, the mutant models and animations look great. And the soundscape is fantastic. It really makes for a great atmosphere, including the music, which is mostly quiet, but when it actually plays it does a great job in highlighting the atmosphere even more. Now onto the gameplay, and this is gonna be a little longer than usually. This is actually the long part I was talking about at the start. So I hope you have that beer and popcorn, because here we go. Right after you exit the bunker, you get binoculars and bolts. Binoculars don't tag enemies or anything, but it can help you identify people in the distance. I wish the areas were larger so you had to use it more, but it's still practical. And the bolts are useful for detecting and triggering anomalies. Anyway, the tutorial messages also introduce you to the weird crouching mechanics. You press the button to crouch, which is normal, you know, but then you have to hold walk button to do a low crouch. You get used to it and it's definitely useful, but like, why? Just have a crouch and prone. In fact, prone isn't even in the game, so why do this? Otherwise, the controls are pretty standard. You can jump, sprint, walk around, shoot, aim, and most importantly, you can lean. Along with all of this, you also have an inventory, which I'm gonna talk about later. So for your first mission, you're given a pistol and have to help a group of stalkers to save one guy from a group of bandits. And here is how it usually goes. Here is a tip. Follow a road to the left where you find and save wounded stalker. Then go into the building next to him and break the crates. You'll get some ammo out of it and also a suppressed pistol, which is way more accurate and will make the mission easy for you. Well, easier should I say, because your armor is kinda shit, so remember to take cover and take it slowly, otherwise you're dead. And speaking of death, the difficulties in S.T.A.L.K.E.R are bizarre. So here is the thing. The lower the difficulty, the lower the bullet damage. And I don't mean just bullet damage enemies do to you, I mean bullet damage including yours. What the hell? So in case you prefer your games easier, you're gonna make it harder on yourself because everybody survives 2 magazines. This means playing on the highest difficulty is the only good way to play it since enemies go down quicker. I mean, unless you count mods, but I'm not talking about them, I'm talking about the vanilla game. S.T.A.L.K.E.R is an open world game with the world being split into areas which are separated by loading screens. All of the areas are visually distinct and all of them have their set of landmarks and challenges. For instance, in Cordon, which is the starting area, you're gonna mostly deal with mutated dogs and standard anomalies, while in Garbage you'll have to deal with groups of bandits, various anomalies and pockets of radiation. Most of the time when you enter a new area, you have to deal with some kind of event, like defending a checkpoint from mutant attack or saving a group of scientists from the army. What's interesting is how differently all events play out each time you play the game. For instance, when I started playing for this video, I had to save that stalker from bandits and all of my buddies died right away, so I had to kill everyone myself. But when I was re-recording the beginning because my original footage got corrupted, all of them survived and I only had to kill 3 bandits. They handled the rest. Stuff like this happens all the time. A lot of these areas seem scripted, but they're really not and always play out differently. This is just how the zone is. Life in it goes on naturally and it's impressive. The zone really feels like a living, breathing world which gives the game near unlimited replayability, because you always see something slightly different. Man, despite the fact this is the shooter, it took me this long to get to the gunplay. Well, I could say it's a normal shooter with aiming down sights, but if only it was so simple. So let's start with the basics. S.T.A.L.K.E.R tried to go for a somewhat realistic feeling tactical combat. Weapons have recoil, you can switch between firing modes, and you have to take your time, otherwise you'll get probably killed. Very ambitious of them, and yes, when it works how it's supposed to, the combat is some of the most intense and immersive ones I've ever seen. However, it's sloppy. Let's get to the most infamous part of the game, weapon inaccuracy. So the guns fire actual physical projectiles, and they also have bullet drops over long distances. Yeah, that's great. However, they also try to simulate ballistics with bullets changing direction, and it's a mess. First of all, the bullets seem to just fire instantly missing at times. Almost like they're coming like 10 centimeters to the side of the barrel. And this means that with some weapons, even at point blank range, you're just gonna miss. Second, stand-in weapons and most sidearms throughout the game suffer greatly with this. This makes the beginning of the game one of the worst I've seen in any good game. Just look at it, it's a mess. And third, this may simulate realistic weapon handling, but it's extremely exaggerated. Real pistols are useful on 15 to 20 meters, and in this game it's 2 meters at best. Later guns definitely get better, and yeah, it's rewarding to finally get a good gun and blow your enemies to bits. But the start of the game is still a chore because you can't hit shit. Back to the guns, ammo can be a bit of a problem. And I'm not talking about wasting it, even though inaccurate weapons are definitely gonna do that. I mean that sometimes traders sell a gun, but they don't sell ammo for it. Seriously? Guns can also randomly jam, which forces you to reload. But when I say randomly, I really mean randomly. Guns have durability in this game, and even if they're in the best shape, they still jam at random. And speaking of durability, you don't have to worry about it. I was using certain guns for hours and never had to replace them or have them break. Some guns can be fitted with extra attachments like scopes, suppressors and grenade launchers. Suppressors are mostly useless because stealth system in this game doesn't really work. Grenade launchers do their job and scopes are weird. They seem to nearly cancel out most of the recoil, which sounds good, but it also seems to make all the weapons even more inaccurate. And yeah, that's what I need, right? Even more inaccuracy. Okay, look, I know I'm constantly dwelling about this, but this is an issue throughout the entire game. I just have to address it. And at this point you're probably thinking I'm done with the guns. But nope, because you can also find special weapons. These weapons always have some extra features. For instance, in S.T.A.L.K.E.R's hideout I found an AK that has double firing rate. Keep it and don't sell it, it's a lifesaver. Or later in the game, I found upgraded AR after killing bunch of monolith mercenaries. It only fired single shots, but it was extremely accurate and it had built-in scope and suppressor. Later I even added grenade launcher on it to make it even more overpowered. Or in this tunnel, I found a Desert Eagle that fired rifle ammunition. And that was just as powerful as it sounds.
Отходим!
Special weapons can be found either in specific stashes or by killing certain NPCs, which is bullshit. I wish I could buy it off them, but oh well. There is a lot more I could say, like about how some guns are better in single shot while others in full auto burst, but I think I spent enough time on guns already, so let's move on. As I already said, the combat is very slow and methodical. You have to take cover, move slowly, and be careful because you can die in a second. If you sprint in the open, you die. If you spray and have to reload in close quarters shootout, you die. If you don't check that one corner where an enemy happens to be, you die. Once you get good at your tactics and get some good equipment, the combat is great. Taking out few guys with a grenade and then finishing the stragglers with assault rifle is so satisfying. Speaking of grenades, be sure to take a few whenever you're about to fight in the buildings. It will help you to clear out rooms and you're not gonna risk instant death. This however only applies to humans, because mutants are a completely different story. There is a large variety of them, but most of them have only two varieties of attack, and that's either ranged attack or melee attack. Every mutant is extremely dangerous and you should never underestimate them. sprinting to avoid being surrounded and firing at their weak spots is a way to go. It's pretty fun to fight them, but sadly some mutants survive a lot of punishment, so be prepared and carry some armor-piercing ammo in case you need it. Also, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think zombies survive multiple headshots 70% of the time, but 30% of the time one shot, even if it's from the pistol, is enough. So either they have broken hitboxes or I'm just missing something.
Magic!
Please tell me, because I really don't know. But yeah, other than these small annoyances, the combat is great. I gotta say, however, despite aiming for a realistic approach, it often dives into the standard FPS bullshit, like being forced to wipe out entire military base just by yourself with an AK. And that's not realistic at all, and it can be pretty frustrating. Or how about those enemies in exoskeletons that can survive multiple headshots? And lastly, final areas of the game are fucking awful. Not only you have to fight hundreds of enemies just by yourself, but all of them use the strongest weapons with armor-piercing ammo. And that's just cheap. Oh yeah, and most of it takes place in tight corridors, so don't be as stupid as I was and bring at least a dozen grenades. And this pisses me off because just before the final mission, there is a segment where you team up with a group of stalkers and you fight your way through streets of Pripyat. It's pretty awesome and I wish game had more missions like this.
Look who's here, the grunts. Trying to get to the center first to skim all the cream. Guess what? We're soon going to be there too. Move it, guys. Top left! Freaks to the right! Awesome! Bullseye! -1, clear. Regroup and advance.
And speaking of the finale, the final mission for the true ending is just bizarre. I mean, here you have S.T.A.L.K.E.R, a slow-paced open world game with slow and tactical combat. Did you really expect that it's gonna end with sprinting over rooftops, jumping through teleports, and shooting teleporting enemies with railgun and Desert Eagle? Anyway, let's talk about stalkers. So stalkers are neutral towards you at first. However, your actions can turn them either hostile or into your friends. When a stalker is your friend, they can sell you things cheaper, and sadly that's it. I think it would be really cool if you could tell them to follow you so we could face the enemies together, but oh well, I guess it wasn't meant to be. A lot of people you meet will also give you side quests. These are often timed and force you to focus on them. Sadly, they only reward you with artifacts and some pitiful amount of money. You can also do side quests for traders, which will unlock some more weapons and armor to buy from them. However, these are broken. Not only they often don't sell ammo for some guns, not only you cannot see the armor stats until you buy it, but when you quit the game and reload your save, their stock resets to the basic gear again, and if you finish all of the side quests they had, you cannot do anything about it anymore. You're stuck with it. Other than stalkers and traders, there's also two warring factions, Duty and Freedom. They both have interesting motives and all, but you cannot join them in this game. You can do missions for them and get gear from them for those side missions, but as I already said, these side missions are broken, so the gear is gonna keep resetting itself. I wish it was more developed, but that's what sequels did, so that's good. Now, onto the inventory.
Учиться не хотят.
Your inventory requires some basic management. Not only you have limited space, but you also only have 50 kilograms of weight limit. It's not Resident Evil type of inventory management, but you will still have to think before you put something in there. 50 kilograms may sound like a lot, but once you get further into a game, get better armor and better weapons, you often only have like 20 kilograms to spare. You can get yourself exoskeleton which will allow you to carry 70 kilograms. But you're gonna sacrifice sprinting for it, so I don't think it's really worth it. Your other important items, aside guns, ammo and armor, will be medkits and bandages for injuries, anti-rats and vodka for radiation poisoning, and food to stay nourished. Yes, you heard me right, there is a hunger mechanic. But don't worry, this isn't really a survival game, just eat a sausage or a bread roll here and there and you're good. Money doesn't take your inventory space and doesn't weigh anything. However, you cannot get money from dead enemies, even if they stole it from you. You can only get money from missions and from selling stuff, which is another weird thing about this game. The artifacts can be found near anomalies and in hidden stashes. All of them sell well, but you can also equip up to 5 of them. Why? Because every artifact gives you some passive buffs and sometimes debuffs. Say, one artifact gives you fast bleeding regeneration, but also causes radiation poisoning, so you better equip one that boosts your radiation protection. It's a cool system and you can honestly play with some cool combinations of artifacts. However, here is a tip. Some artifacts have health bonus, but they don't give you more health, they give you health regeneration for the price of making you more vulnerable to all types of damage. Just thought you should know it, so you're not surprised that you're dying faster. In all honesty, despite the infamy of S.T.A.L.K.E.R's technical issues, I didn't experience too many of them. I had few moments where enemies forgot I was fighting them and returned to patrolling, 2 moments where enemies spawned in front of me after ending loading screen, and only one crash in Dark Valley that didn't happen again. Also, whenever the game started loading, it closed and opened again, which caused my recording to stop in between loading screens. And that was pretty annoying. But otherwise, I had no huge issues. Physics didn't fuck up, the game ran well, only crashed once, sound worked, loadings were short. Yeah, it played fine. I guess I was lucky. So in conclusion, S.T.A.L.K.E.R Shadow of Chernobyl is not a game for everyone. It's difficult, slow-paced, and can be annoying and tedious at times, especially in the beginning. However, if you embrace the slow pace, get fully immersed in the game world, plus getting through the crappy start, you will be rewarded with one of the most unique gaming experiences, period. A great atmospheric first-person shooter with a huge living and breathing video game world, the Zone. Alright, that's all I have to say. Thank you for watching and stay safe.